Kenya, are you ready? Because right now in rooms across the country, there are young people with big dreams. And honestly, the world hasn't quite caught up with them yet, because what we want to do right now is welcome you to the Nation Leadership Forum. And today we're talking about something that touches every single household: future skills, innovation and opportunities for Kenya's youth. Now, because let's be honest, the jobs our parents trained for, half of them are not even there anymore. And the jobs of tomorrow, some haven't even been invented yet. So the big question is, how do we prepare a generation for a future we can't fully predict? For us, we've got three brilliant minds who are actually going to be live here and, of course, exchanging with us conversations that are going to bring a breath from the corporate world, shaping skills, programs, and onto the ground. So to everyone who's joined us today, we hope that you're going to have a very robust conversation. And if you're out there, we can definitely just jump in conversation, because we get to understand the TVET systems and, of course, from scratch to voice bringing us to a global perspective. And we have a friend all the way from the German embassy to break that down to us. So this is not just a panel, this is a blueprint. So sit back, lean in, and let's get into conversation, because Kenya's youth aren't just the future, they are right now. I hope you're great. So we're going to start with quick introductions. Daktari, this is not the first time I'm interacting with you.
Sure.
How would you ordinarily introduce yourself?
Well, I have so many hats and titles. But for purpose of this conversation, Kipkirui Langat is my name, the immediate Director General, TVET Authority, and Okiali, the founding CEO of the TVET Authority. I've been in this space for the last 30 years. And currently, in relations to this discussion, I also work and advise African Union Development Agency in terms of skills development and harmonization of TVET in Africa. Yeah,
Frederica. I don't know if I pronounced it
Very
right.
well.
But quick introductions of who you are and what you do for the German embassy.
Yeah, thank you so much, and honor to have me today. My name is Friederike Hemka from the German Embassy, Deputy Head of Development Cooperation. So I'm overseeing our development project here with Kenya that we implement together with the Kenyan government in TVET, for example, digitalization, trade, and so on and so forth.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
I hear you love riding matatus to town. Is that true?
True.
Mr. Nicholas Uchuli from Empa Foundation, kindly just talk to us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you, Daktari. Thank you, Federica, as fellow panelists. My name is Nicholas Uchuli. I work for Safaricom Foundation and Empa Foundation. I've used the long names because these are two distinct foundations, but serving Kenyans and riding on the same pillars. So I am a program manager there, and I focus on education, where TVET is among a key pillar under our launched and newly, what we're implementing currently under our Citizens of the Future program. TVET and youth remain key under the Safaricom agenda. Thank you so much.
When you talk about skills, why is it important in the job market? And do you think that there is a big gap in how we get to empower everyone who's trying to get either into the job market or who's trying to advance in their career? Having been in the space for a good number of years, Daktari, you definitely just talk to us. What are some of the gaps that you've seen in terms of skill as people join the job market?
Actually, when we talk of skills, skills are not in isolation. We look at skills and the opportunities. And in this case, we develop skills to bridge a gap that will lead an individual to opportunities that are there. And these opportunities are generated by the market. The market is where we produce goods and services for purposes of serving the humanity. And all our economies are structured in the sense that we are supposed to be producing goods and services. And human capital, in this case, is a very big factor of production. Unlike the general education, where we normally treat it as a social aspect in terms of learning and gaining knowledge, for skills, it is more than a social aspect. It is actually a factor of production. And in many cases, skills have been treated as an economic investment. That is why when you put every coin you put into skills development must translate into a function of production, and we look at it in terms of competitiveness, productivity, and how you are able to spur businesses and growth, so that we are able to satisfy the needs of human beings. And in this case, skills is becoming a very, very critical factor of competitiveness. That is why every government, every institution is actually pushing to make sure that we do or we develop the right skills. You've run a very important aspect, Skilling Africa, which is a call to make sure that we develop the right skills among our people. There are three aspects that we normally look at in terms of skills development. One is for personal growth and personal achievement, because when you are skilled, you have an opportunity to be take advantage of what is going to come out as in terms of, let's say, job opportunities and the rest. Second is, as I mentioned, is a factor of production. And thirdly, and which is very important, is for what we call cohesive and stable society. Because when we empower young people and they are able to get opportunities and be able to satisfy themselves, then we create a cohesive society where everyone is satisfied and be able to live together.
Thank you so much, Dr. for that insight. Friederike, Kenyans want to be competitive, and in our nature we're competitive. But of course we want to get into the space where we can compete globally, having in mind that we have the digital economy. What are some of the skills you think we require, especially as young people, to make sure that we get to be competitive in that? Because right now we're living in a global village whereby there's some Kenyans who work remotely, but they work for a company maybe which is based in the US, maybe a company in Berlin, and they work even with the time shifts for the different time zones for the different countries. So what do you think is that gap that we have, and what are some of the skills that we need to equip the young people with?
Yeah, so I think that there are two types of skills that Kenyans need to compete in the global economy. And I have only been to Kenya for 1 year, so I have this comparison. And I think that, of course, you need the technical skills in specific, to compete in specific emerging sectors. For example, renewable energy, where Kenya is very far ahead. Also in digital skills, of course, coding, AI. So you have these technical skills in really future important economic sectors. But then, of course, you have also the soft skills, right? When it comes to communication. And I think also there, Kenya has a lot of chances also being an Anglophone, English-speaking country also. So there are soft skills also when it comes to teamwork, intercultural skills, and so on. So I think these are somehow the skills that Kenyans need. But I think that two messages are that first, my impression is that Kenyans are already very well equipped, and I think that there are a lot of chances because the educational level is so high, and Kenyans are, they speak very well English, and they have a lot of skills already.
They're very bold.
I think yes, and that is also something positive. So I do think that Kenyans are very ready to compete on the global stage, right? So I think that is very important. But I think when Kenyans young people think about what skills they should invest into, they should not only look at the external factors of the economy, because the economic demands are evolving very quickly, right? And I think still to succeed, you have to look at your own talents and your own interests.
I love that you've mentioned talent. We're going to be circling back to that. Nicholas, Empa Foundation has been known to identify that talent, identify the skills, or even startups and small businesses to make sure that they get to empower them. Not only that, but we've also seen that you identify spaces and gaps where you enable these young people through funding. What's in the space of TVETs and the kind of work that you're doing on ground?
Thank you so much for that question. And building on my colleague's sentiments, skilling is key for the youth, and Empa Foundation has been in this space. We keep learning, we keep growing in it. From when we started in 2018 with a few youth across the country, slightly over 1,000. And then we are able to provide them with scholarships to access TVET institutions. And this was basically just to get training and skills that are required for the labor market. Then picked lessons from there. Then we grew a bit in 2022 again, when we now scaled that program to affect more youth. So to recruit more youth, embrace the new models that are coming up under TVET, extended our collaboration, and it's a space that we've seen more youth continue to get the hunger to get access to scholarships. More youth are showing up making us be aware that there are different trades that are not offered in the TVETs, but they are demanded in the labor market. So connecting all those pieces and then now getting into the space and continue to expand. So we've worked with various TVET institutions, and we began with the institutional building, where infrastructure is key as a foundation to have the right training spaces, to have the right training workshops, right equipment in the TVET institutions. So we continue to robustly do that across the country with selected TVETs. And then we also advance scholarships to youth who are not able to access education. And these youth that we provide scholarships to TVETs are those that are really left behind. It's the only option they have there. They only have, they don't have the credentials to take them to the next step, but then we come in to fill that gap and enable them to go into TVETs and be able to study different trades. The end game of it is them having money in their pocket, either through employment or them starting ventures that will finally bring money into their pocket. So with that collaboration with the national government, with county governments, and with all TVET fraternity, it's a space that we are intentional to continue supporting the youth in this country.
Is it a Nairobi thing or across the country?
Yes, so the foundation's investments cut across the 47 counties, and in TVET, we continue to grow slowly, where we are basically currently in Nairobi, Isiolo, and Marsabit counties. But we're also partnering with the University of Embu, TVET Institute, where we then draw students from all the 47 counties to access education through scholarships, to access TVET skills through scholarships, and as we also continue to support the youth in Isiolo, Nairobi, and Marsabit to access different TVET institutions through the partnership model.
I love that you've shared that. And that brings me to a misconception that, and it comes with a lot, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. Daktari, in most cases when in the society, when you say you studied maybe media or you were studying to become a lawyer, there's that importance that you're held in the society with, okay? People feel like that's an important role. And then now when you say you're in TVET and you studied plumbing, and then it becomes more, okay, you're a plumber, okay? And then, you're an electrician, that's nice. But the truth of the matter is, every time an employer is looking for someone, the people who've been trained through TVET get the job done. The guys who have been in other institutions other than TVET, often an employer would spend a lot of time training them. What is being done within the TVETs to make sure that they have that kind of immediate skill, like they are hands-on, they can do their work and get the work done with immediacy, as compared to maybe others that may have to go through a lot of training just to get the job done?
Well, okay, thank you. That's a very important view of the trends that have been happening in terms of changing of careers. But maybe before I respond to that question, one important things that my two colleagues have mentioned here about future skills. We have what we call mega trends in terms of what inform what are the skills that we require in the future. And as a country, we are living among the global community, and we really need to understand what is happening so that we we prepare our young people for opportunities here and outside. And there are four critical things that we probably need to understand, and maybe that inform this discussion. The mega trends in terms of skills, digital transformation is so key that what the digital transformation has caused in terms of disruption and also creating new opportunities. We really need to understand so that we don't invest on skills that are already being taken over by the digital transformation, but we need to invest on skills that the disruption is creating new opportunities.
Yeah.
So digital transformation is key.
Yeah.
The second one is on green revolution or green skills. That is very critical because one of the things that we do as we try to do a lot of development and investment, we are talking of sustainability of our planet Earth, and therefore green technologies are the one that spur, and therefore there are a lot of skills that are coming across that. The other things, and again, sometimes when we talk of technical skills, but the entire skills landscape, globalization of trade and other things, because when we talk of trade, we're including industrialization, because when we produce products, eventually we have to, trade and sell into different markets. So we need to understand the segments of markets that we have globally, so that we train our young people for the opportunities. And then finally is what we call demographic and social change. We're talking of demographic dividend and youth bulge in Africa. We are talking of population declining in other parts of the world. So when we understand all those things, then we'll be able to see the opportunities that are created. Therefore, we prepare our young people for these opportunities. As I mentioned earlier on, the realization of skills is when you're able to link skills and opportunities. If you train, have a skills, and you're not able to apply those skills, it makes no sense. Then coming back to your question about people looking at professions in different aspects. If you qualify, go to university, have a degree in whatever field, you are looked as a very important person in the society. But what is more important is what really brings dignity in terms of life, in what you do and what you earn.
How do you bring back that dignity? Because sometimes, in as much as you really are doing an important job within, you went to a TVET, you're trained, and you're skilled. And even in the market, you're earning very good money. But the society has made a decision to... There's a lot of shame that comes with that, you know? The
conversation is changing because one very interesting thing, and this is what I've seen, there are quite a number of people who have already finished their program in universities. They've been looking for jobs in the last 3, 4, 5 years. They haven't gotten any. They are coming back to TVET. And those are the disciples that are actually breaching the good aspects of TVET in the society, because after changing and coming to do a skill, probably within the last, a few months, you either have a job being employed or you create your job. And I have one example of a former student I knew who went to do a course in university in economics. He was unable to get a job for 5 years. He went back to TVET. He did a course in electrical installation and plumbing, and he created his company. As we are talking, this gentleman is already employing close to 70 young people in a big company that is doing electrical and mechanical services in building. So that's one of the areas that are bringing this. And actually the conversation is changing. I was privileged to serve in COPS for the last 10 years. And I remember in 2017, we had about 996 individuals who had qualified for various degree programs in our universities, changing to come and do TVET. That was in 2017. I think later, 10 years later, that number had changed to over 10,000. I think this year alone we had about 5,000 individuals who actually opted to go for skills. The thing is, and very important is, create system, and this is what I believe the government has already done, to allow you to pursue your career. This is what is very important, is to be able to be given an opportunity to pursue a career that will be able to give you what you want to do in life, and at the same time be given an opportunity that you can still advance in that career. Because you can go to a TVET institution, do a program, either in a certificate or a diploma, but later on, if you want to advance, you can go to a university. And that is the reason why specific universities like technical universities were created, so that you can also give opportunity for upward mobility in terms of career. Initially, the reason why that negative perceptions was there because it was almost a dead end. You have your diploma and you have nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
Or even if you are to go to, try to go to university, you are forced to start with first year. And for the years that you have worked and acquired experiences was not counting anything.
Yeah.
But I think that has already been addressed by providing a very clear qualification framework where depending on the experience that you have, entry behavior, knowledge that you have already gained, you can be assessed and be placed in a specific program in a specific year, so that you don't have to start from first year and you're able to gain whatever you want to gain.
We'll circle back to that, but real quick before we take a short commercial break, I'd like to just ask you if you're given chance to just talk to a youth right now and tell them the top 3 skills that they need for the job market today. What would you tell them? 1. Digital skills.
Content creation.
So content creation is the space
digital
that they
skills,
could jump
yes,
in.
and then building construction.
Building construction.
And the green
jobs.
Green jobs, the green trades.
Frederic.
The soft skills as well, as I mentioned, right? Intercultural skills, communication skills, and so on.
So do you think that Kenya suffers in any of that space when it comes to matters soft skills, or it's a blend of both as compared to maybe Germany?
No. As I said, I think Kenyans are already very well equipped, and they're very ready, I think, to have this global competitiveness. But I think it is still, a mentality to look beyond, to look what is in front of you, and then also look what is maybe further away. Look for opportunities that are, not just in your environment, maybe in different sectors, maybe in a different place, not where you grow up. And I think this is part of connecting also.
You have the German embassy in Kenya, and I'm sure that there's the detail of how we're working together to make sure that the skills are enhanced. How best would you say that the German embassy is also, the German government is working together with the Kenyan government to make sure that the skills are actually enhanced? Quickly before I respond to that, I wanted to pick up just quickly on 2 things that my colleague here mentioned, is that I think the mega trends, what he mentioned, and also the issue of promoting the reputation of TVET, right? I think this is something that where Kenya is not alone, right? This is something that we share also in Germany. These mega trends, they don't only affect Kenya, they affect, I think, a lot of countries around the globe, especially also Europe and Germany. When we talk about digitalization, the greening. We'll put a pin on that. When we come back, we'll start with you so that you give us further detail on the same, and of course tell us about the partnership you're having with the German government to make sure that the young people are getting to benefit from some of the skills that we have to share. We take a short commercial break, pay some bills. On the other half, we'll still continue with this conversation right now. Welcome to the Nation Leadership Forum, and of course the conversation right now is around future skills, innovation and opportunities for Kenya's youth. My name is Brian Aseli. I go by the Monica Most Bankable Host because every time I speak someone gets to pay me for some reason. I'm here with an amazing panel, and of course you're talking about how the youth are not the leaders of tomorrow but the leaders of now. So how can we make sure that they get to understand their skills? How do we make sure that we get to enhance that? We have our friends from Empa Foundation, Nicholas Wechuli. We have our friend Frederic. Yeah, I think I killed it, right? Hemka, all the way from the German embassy, and of course, Daktari. I hope you're doing great, Dr. Langat, who's been in the TVET space for a good number of years. Now, before we went on a short commercial break, you gave us detail, and you're actually responding to, adding on to something Daktari had said earlier on. Would you like to just continue in the same breath? Because you touched on the digital economy and how you can actually enhance that, and then later you were supposed to add on a second point. So talk to us.
Yes. So my point was that I think that Kenya and Germany, we share a lot of transformations that touch us equally. You know, we have a lot of mega trends happening that shape our economy, that it also influence the way we have to train young people. You know, you were mentioning the mega trends, digitalization, for example, also the greening of the economy, demographic changes, right? And this is where we can learn from each other how to adapt skills development. And the second point was because we were talking about the sometimes rather negative image of TVET compared to university degrees. And my point is that we are sharing the same issues in Germany, so we do have that issues as well, that people think TVETs are maybe less important than university degrees, but I think what we see is that if you implement this dual TVET approach where you cooperate very closely with the private sector, you show people in TVET that there's a link to the employment and the link to the job market, and that is, I think, one part of the solution. And we work on this, maybe is also bringing me to your question, how we support, how we work together as Kenya and Germany in the sector. We work very much on the dual TVET approach, so that is a policy that we are working on, that we launched together with the Ministry of Education, is the dual TVET policy, and where we are partner with a lot of private sector companies. So at the moment, we, as I said, we mostly partner with the Ministry of Education in TVET, and we are working with more than 100 TVET schools across Kenya, cooperating with around 2,000 private companies to implement really this dual TVET approach.
Yeah, as you continue with that, has Germany done something special to make sure that they get to incentivize these courses that are offered in TVET, and even as they get into the job market, in that it's more attractive for people to get into those spaces, so that not everyone expects to get into university? The other day we had COOPS, which is trying to just tell people there's scholarships, there's an opportunity that you need to get into different spaces, not just universities. So what would you like to say about that? And is Germany doing anything different to make sure that they get to incentivize that space?
I mean, we're trying to bring our experience that we have with the dual TVET approach in Germany to Kenya, not to duplicate it, because obviously it's a specific context, but to work together on that, and in terms of information and knowledge sharing. So it is about the policy development, but I think it's also about improving, increasing the attractiveness of TVET education, you know, with state-of-the-art equipment, for example, right? So we are, for example, cooperating to build up centers of excellencies, you know, where we really have state-of-the-art equipment or digital equipment, right? To really, have them really as centers of excellence, and by that image is also to improve the reputation of TVET.
Do you think we are lagging behind compared to Germany?
No,
You've made an observation. You've already been here for 1 year, so you can actually give us insight on the same.
Yeah. So, no, I don't think it's about lagging behind. I think it's just very different contexts, you know, because in Kenya, as you all know, and the demographics are a lot different than in Germany. In Germany, we are struggling with an aging population. Why I think here, the more the challenges for many young people entering the job market every year, and for them to be absorbed, right? So we have different challenges. So it's not about one country lagging behind. It's about different challenges, but facing same mega trends, right? And then learning from each other.
And of course, there's a lot of disruption with the emergence of new jobs or even faster ways of doing things. So maybe you've trained for years to get this skill, and then when you get into the job market, someone has developed an AI system that fixes it real quick.
And I mean, just one last point, I think, on new skills, right? Kenya is far ahead when it comes to renewable energy use than Germany, right? So you are apparently better in providing these technologies, and you need the people to provide these technologies. So I think this is something where it's vice versa. We can learn a lot from Kenya.
So when are you taking us to Germany to teach them and improve their skills as well on that matter?
Yeah, you should.
I think that's a good conversation. So you give us visas very fast so you can actually come to Germany. Nicholas, I would want you to emphasize on the need for, or what is the gap or the space where foundations have that greater responsibility of making sure that they get to play in bringing the government, the industry, and the TVET colleges together, because I see sometimes the foundations are there, they're doing a great job in making sure that there is funding, but then, you know, there's a lot of bringing them together is hard. Government wants to work on its own. TVET colleges want to work on their own. Industry is already moving faster than anything, especially with the global markets. We want to compete in the global market. We don't care about what's being taught maybe within the TVET institutions. And government has also not created an education system whereby it's one streamlined a skill set that you're taught in school that is ready for the market, in that maybe the employer is not spending a lot of money in getting to prepare. And you know, billions are used in cash to make sure that you get to retrain this mind that has been in TVET college for quite some time and not even ready for the market. So what's your breath on that? What do you think is the role of the foundations and organizations to just make sure that we get to bring the three institutions together?
Thank you so much, Brian, for that question. Before I answer that question, I would just like to also comment on what Daktari and Federica have said, that in the past few years, we've seen great progress on the platforms and avenues that have been created under TVET to the youth. What Federica says about dual training, we're seeing that happening, and it's quite very practical because we now shift from studying for long periods of time, and then we are now gauging you on performance in terms of what you are able to produce in an exam to what you can now do. So those are very great platforms that we're seeing transform, and from the Empa Foundation programs that we're implementing in the counties mentioned, it's actually very practical. What Daktari has said about giving the chance to the youth to advance their education from a very low level, joining TVET, to actually now joining a university. Those are platforms that in the past were not there, but have come up strongly and just making more youth to go to it. The recognition of prior learning, that I have the training, I do not need to go and start again. So you pick me from where I am, then train me, and then I'm able to be certified so that globally I can compete with others. So those tremendous aspects have really improved the space, and we are seeing the space quite grow in terms of youth uptake. Back to your question, in terms of how do these organizations come together? Because individually we're doing a lot, we could be doing little or a lot as individual organizations, which means we're in a space where we have gaps, but each organization is focused on their own and report their own and actually
trying to solve the same problem.
Solve the same problem, celebrate their individual impact. I think as conveners, the government has laid the platforms for in terms of policy, in terms of the structure for TVETs to succeed. Different organizations are also working towards the same, but then the development partners, for example, Empa Foundation, the best we can do is to have a convening, and let it not be a convening where we are merely giving blanket speeches, but identify the specific activities that we are doing under this space, the specific gaps that we've identified, so that where, for example, Empa Foundation stops, then another organization picks from there, so that we have a system from when the youth joins to when they actually get employment, because a single organization may not do all, but joined together, we can do all. So this could be just intentionally having national platforms and bringing stakeholders together. What about going per county and customizing solutions to that particular county? Who are working in TVET, for example?
And of course, their needs are unique, depending on the terrain, where they come from, the environment. And of course, we can't assume that we can give blanket solutions to all these different counties. For example, people who come from maybe a county pretty close to the lake, the kind of solutions you're trying to give them, and you kind of look at the economic activities that are carried there, they're quite different. So just to add on what you're actually saying.
So for example, coming to Nairobi County, and we want to map out how many organizations are here working on the TVETs. Let's have a sitting, let's have a deep conversation and identify the specific areas we are intervening, and then together create a system and say, this one will stop here, this one picks from here, to the rest. So it's allocating resources towards that intentionally and planning for it, and then just bringing these organizations together. It may be difficult at the beginning, but when other organizations see the benefit of coming together and doing it from a system perspective, then we'll have more and more join.
I love that you shared that. And Dr. there is a big question that I'd like you to answer, because in most cases we've seen that an employer does not trust that a person who has a TVET certificate can do the job far much better, or even just at the same level as someone who came from the university. How do we bring about that level of trust to the employees, to an employer, and bring that level of trust with their employees, in that if you come with a certificate from the TVETs, then I'm saying you're good to go, as compared to when someone, and you even look at the kind of discrimination that comes with job applications. They say must be a degree holder, and I don't think that's what's being given or being offered at a TVET level. So what's your breath on that?
Well, I think again, as I mentioned, things are changing and shifting. In fact, when it comes to job description, they actually want you to have what you can do and not what you possess in terms of the competencies that an individual must be able to do ABCD. And that one is definitely described by the competencies that you learn. But I think the mistrust came because initially training and skills development was done separately between the providers, government, and industry separately, to an extent that we really don't know what you're doing to a point that I'm able to trust. And that is why in a number of occasions the industry complain of retraining, putting a lot of resources to retrain these people to really do what they have to do. But addressing the whole ecosystem is something that requires a lot of thinking around it. And I'm happy, I think in the last few years, actually the last 1 year or so, Kenya is beginning to put together the acts to make sure that we address those challenges. One of the things that is going to address this is the Ministry of Labor developed a national skills development policy that is actually giving a framework on how do we approach the skills. First, we must define what are the skills that we require now and in future, so that as we put resources to this, we know it is going to pay at the long last. Within the framework, it also state the critical roles played by different players. And this is where the industry is becoming very critical in terms of informing what goes into the curriculum and what needs to be trained in the institution. The industry will be responsible for defining what we call occupational standards, which really give performance criteria of what one is expected when you go to the industry. And once that policy is, of course, implemented through enabling legislation and putting in place what we call National Skills Council, that will be largely driven by industry, then that trust will come in, because what is going to go to the curriculum, and even in training, both the training providers and industry will be doing together, including assessment and even certification. And in that case, we all own to what, including the industry, in what you possess, and therefore I don't have to question or really want to know whether I trust or not trust you because we are doing this. So I mentioned the trust was because it was done separately. Second is as I mentioned again, it's an investment, is what we need to identify the opportunities now, both locally and outside, so that we prepare this individual. My colleague mentioned what we call the demographic and social change. We need to understand the pressure that we have in terms of addressing the needs of these young people. We need to know there's another space that is already declining in population, and they're actually requiring people to go and work there. But you cannot just work there just like that. You must meet the requirement in terms of qualification and the competencies that they require in their industries. You mentioned again probably what is happening in German and what we have here. As much as we are trying to work together, our economic environment and landscape is totally different. It's an industrial nation. We are trying to we are in formative stages of development where most of our activities are on basic infrastructure development and so forth. almost 80% of those who go through high school in Germany and go to TVET go through what they call dual training, which is basically training done in industry. When you come to our place, as much as we are collaborating with them, our economy is largely informal, and therefore we have very few formal sectors that will ordinarily support that kind of it. However, there's something that we have that they don't have. As I mentioned, we are running a lot of infrastructural development. If we are able to profile the skills that we require in infrastructure development, go to roads, go to ports, go to dams, go to housing, and then structure our training in such a way that we infuse training within this project, what we call our project-based training. We're able to run almost a similar program like what's happening in Germany, but we are using our infrastructural space that we have. Then we will give practical skills to these young people. By the time they are finishing, they will be able to even participate in similar projects that will be happening later on, either here or outside. And finally, what tie all these things, and that is why Germany is different, is having a sustainable financing system. In Germany, the skills development is largely financed by industry. It's actually run by the Chamber of Commerce. Here, and I know there is a conversation currently going on how do we fund our tertiary education. It is largely supported by Exchequer, which is not sustainable because as the numbers grow, the demand in terms of how much goes for training. And of course, you know, the fiscal space.
One day we'll get time and actually talk about the funding model for education in Kenya.
That's the difference between us and Germany.
Yes. So we know we have a greater responsibility, and of course that is the role of creating opportunities for young people. I'm talking about governments coming together with the businesses, coming together with development either partners or institutions to just make sure that we get to create these opportunities, because the young people now have the skills, but where are the opportunities? So what would you like to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, as was mentioned before, I think you have different players having different responsibilities, right? And responsibilities are shared. So I think that we should not put too much pressure and too much expectations on the individuals, you know, because they're individuals trying to enter the labor market. But at the end, you have different responsibilities, of course, with the government to make it as easy as possible for them, you know, and to have that equal opportunities. So they have to create the enabling environment. But then, of course, as was mentioned before, and this is also the dual TVET approach that we have in Germany, there's also a responsibility on the industry, right? So I think we also need that the shift in mindset also in the industry to invest financially, but also invest in new skills, right, and employ them. And I think these are the different roles that we have. Yeah,
I'm being told because of time we can't continue the conversation, but I know we'll have a chance to actually do the same. I would like to say a big thank you to Dr. Lagat, Frederic, thank you so much for creating time to be here with us, and of course Nicholas from Empa Foundation. That's been our time right here for the Nation Leadership Forum. I hope to get an opportunity to interact with you even better, but right now, stand by for some news.